First, our main questions and their brief answers. 1. Here, in CC Religion, we are following the development of the religious consciousness and its object, God, or the in and for itself, absolute being. Give a brief summary of the various types of natural religion and religion in the form of art and their limitations. In brief, natural religion. A. God as light. The Zoroastrian religion of Persia has no self or subject and no particularity. B. Plant and animal. In the Hinduism of India, we see war between individual deities, and we have the one abstract Brahman and many deities, hence no harmony but divine chaos. C. The artificer. In Egypt, instinctively produces works such as the pyramid, which has an inner divine and an outer reality. Here we see the nature-spirit conflict in the Sphinx and transition to true art. One limitation is the separation of the believer from the divine. Religion in the form of art. A. The abstract work of art. 1. The sculpture of the God, in self-conscious human form, free of nature. But as inspired, it doesn't reflect the artist who fails to see himself in the work. 2. The work of art in language. The divine in the hymn and oracle has language, but in the oracle, the language of the gods is alien and unintelligible. 3. In the cult, e.g. the Eleusinian mysteries, the adepts become one with the divine, but in an incomplete way. B. The living work of art. 1. The Bacchic revelers express the Dionysian side of the divine, but lack its self-conscious side. 2. The athlete is the body and living God, but lacks an inner as well as language. C. The spiritual or literary work of art. 1. The epic, such as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, depicts universal themes and reflects the UPI concept. The universal, the gods, the particular, the heroes, and the individual, the minstrel, Homer himself. 2. In tragedy, such as Antigone, though the gods are portrayed on stage in speech, there is still alienation from the divine, a split between the actor and what he portrays. 3. In comedy, such as Aristophanes' The Clouds, the split and alienation is overcome. We have a self-conscious subject with private convictions replacing the gods. 2. What is the difference between natural religion, God is light, plant and animal, Anubis and Sphinx? Here, there is no self in which I can see myself. And Greek religion in the form of art. Here we have the divine as self-conscious. For example, as sculpture, hymn, oracle, cult, athlete, and in epic tragedy and comedy. However, the Greeks were not anthropomorphic enough. Their gods were of the imagination and not of flesh and blood. 3. What is the problem or defect of Christianity, the absolute religion? In brief, picture thinking prevents unity of us and God, heaven and earth, and produces a split into a here and a beyond, the past and the future. Picture thinking must be transcended into the concept in absolute knowledge. The following questions will be answered at the end. What does Hegel mean when he says that, quote, the religious community's knowledge is defective as the church is still burdened with an unreconciled split into a here and a beyond? And what does Hegel mean by the death of God, by his saying that the true meaning of the cross is that, quote, God himself is dead? And further, when he speaks of, quote, the return of consciousness into the depths of the night of I equals I, which no longer knows anything outside of it. A. Natural religion. Spirit or God here is immediate or natural. The divine appears in a given or natural form, which is known, nevertheless, to be filled with spirit and to be all truth and all reality. Again, the one spirit in the series of religions is gradually coming to consciousness of itself. And in each religion, there are two sides, and they are both spirit. Spirit as subject, consciousness, that which worships, reveres, and spirit as object, the object of consciousness, that which is worshipped, revered. A. God as light, Persia. Thus, there is nothing but spirit, God, the absolute, and the ultimate goal is for spirit to know itself as spirit. The first immediate form or shape in which spirit knows itself is that of light, corresponding to the Zoroastrian religion of Persia and the Zend-Avesta. Light, in its immateriality, Hegel says, is nature's immediate analog of self-consciousness and has the shape of shapelessness. The Lichtwesen is the religion of sense certainty, whose object is mere being or immediacy. This divine light reveals itself in the forms of nature and is regarded as the Lord that rules over all peoples and things. But since there is no self yet, we must advance to the next higher religion, that of B, plant and animal, India. Here, spirit knows itself in the shape of plants and animals, which correspond to the ancient Hindu religion of India, which has the one abstract Brahman along with many deities, and which exhibits a divine chaos and no harmony. This is the religion of perception and discrete things, where spirit now sees itself in a variety of independent plant and animal forms, having a primitive selfhood. Here, plants are considered calm and blameless, whereas animals are hostile and vicious. Animals are associated with various national spirits which hate and fight each other to the death, hence a divine chaos. This leads us into the next religion of the understanding, which has an inner and outer side, namely C, the artificer, Egypt. Spirit will now know itself in the products or works of the Egyptian Werkmeister, or artificer. Spirit no longer has given objects, such as light, plants, and animals, in which to see itself, but objects which it itself produces and with a divine meaning. What it does is take natural materials and shapes them into architectural and sculptural forms. Here, the artificer works instinctively, much like a bee building its cells, but without knowing himself in his works. His works are thus products of the understanding, such as obelisks and pyramids, which house just the dead, but not the living spirit, and which have an inner divine side and outer geometrical side of straight lines and plane figures. The understanding's inner-outer division is also found in the Anubis and the Sphinx, which are half dog, half man, and half lion, half man. It is the riddle of the Sphinx, a riddle solved by Oedipus, which show Egypt's nature-spirit conflict and which necessitates the transition to Greek religion in the form of art. Spirit's products here were inarticulate mixtures of the human and the natural, and were without language. With the Greeks, we advanced from a natural to a wholly spiritual religion in which the human by itself is the divine shape. The Egyptian religion was also characterized by a separation of the believer from the divine, but was also the first to have a belief in immortality. We now transition from the artificer to the artist.